Some things happen all the time. A text message, a traffic jam, a bill in the mail, a cloudy day when you wanted sunshine. Other things barely happen at all. An old friend calls out of nowhere. A perfect parking spot opens right in front of the door. A person who never apologizes suddenly says they were wrong. That is when someone might say it. That happens once in a blue moon. It is one of the most poetic ways English has to say something is rare, but it is also a little strange, because the moon is not usually blue. And when people talk about a blue moon today, they are often talking about a calendar event that is rare, but not impossible. So where did the phrase come from? What is a blue moon? And why do we say something happens once in a blue moon? I'm Earl, the creator of Everyday Sayings and Origins. To keep each episode consistent, I use my digital likeness. Now, back to the story. Today, once in a blue moon means very rarely, not never, not impossible, just rare enough that you notice when it happens. Someone might say, I only eat dessert once in a blue moon, or he calls me once in a blue moon, or every once in a blue moon, everything goes exactly right. The phrase has a soft feeling. It does not sound technical. It sounds almost dreamy. It points to time, distance, memory, and surprise. That is part of why it lasted. There are many ways to say something is rare. Hardly ever, almost never, rarely, not often. But once in a blue moon gives rarity an image. It places the rare thing in the night sky. It makes it feel like an event, something you might look up and notice. That image is powerful because the moon is already tied to time. For thousands of years, people have watched the moon change. New moon, crescent moon, half moon, full moon. Month after month, the moon marks a rhythm in the sky. It comes and goes. It grows and shrinks. It disappears and returns. So when a phrase uses the moon to talk about time, it already feels natural. But a blue moon is different. A normal full moon is common. It happens about once a month. A blue moon suggests something unusual. A moon that breaks the normal pattern. A moon that feels extra. A moon that seems rare enough to become a saying. Today, people often define a blue moon in one of two ways. The most common modern definition is the second full moon in a single calendar month. That can happen because the cycle from full moon to full moon is about 29.5 days. Most months are 30 or 31 days long. So sometimes if a full moon happens right at the beginning of a month, another full moon can happen before that same month ends. That second full moon is often called a blue moon. There is also an older seasonal definition. A blue moon can be the third full moon in a season that has 4 full moons instead of the usual 3. That sounds more complicated, but the basic idea is the same. The lunar pattern does not line up perfectly with the calendar. Every so often, an extra full moon appears in the count. That extra full moon gets a special name, blue moon. But here's the twist. A calendrical blue moon is rare, but not that rare. It happens roughly every 2 to 3 years. That is unusual, but it is not once in a lifetime. It is not a miracle. It is not the kind of thing a person would only see one time. So the saying once in a blue moon does not mean something happens only once ever. It means something happens rarely enough to feel special. That is why the phrase works. It exaggerates rarity without making it completely impossible. But was the phrase always about calendar moons? Not exactly. The history is a little more tangled. Long before most people used blue moon as a calendar term, the idea of a blue moon could suggest something absurd, unlikely, or strange. A blue moon sounds wrong because the moon usually appears white, silver, gray, yellow, or orange near the horizon. Blue is not the normal color people expect, so saying the moon was blue could be a way of saying something almost unbelievable, like saying pigs can fly, or saying something will happen when the impossible happens. That older feeling may be part of the phrase's foundation. A blue moon was not just a rare calendar event. It was an image of something outside ordinary experience, something that made people stop and think, wait, does that even happen? And the answer is interesting. Sometimes, the moon really can appear blue, not because the moon itself changes color, but because particles in the atmosphere can affect the light reaching your eyes. Smoke from large fires or ash from volcanic eruptions can sometimes make the moon look bluish. That kind of blue moon is genuinely unusual. It is not predictable like a calendar blue moon. It depends on conditions in the sky. That may have helped the phrase feel even more rare. Most people will not see the moon turn visibly blue very often. Some may never notice it at all. So the blue moon became a perfect image for an event that is possible, but uncommon. not impossible, rare. That is the key. The phrase does not say never in a blue moon. It says once. Once in a blue moon. It leaves the door open. The thing can happen. It just does not happen much. That is what makes the phrase useful in ordinary life. People often need a way to talk about things that are not impossible but unusual. A relative who rarely visits. A boss who rarely gives praise. A day when nothing goes wrong. A person who almost never loses their temper. A restaurant that is usually crowded but happens to be empty. These are not impossible events. They are just rare enough to stand out. Once in a blue moon fits those moments perfectly. It gives rarity a little beauty. There is also a gentle humor in the phrase. If someone says, "I clean the garage once in a blue moon," they are admitting it does not happen often, but the phrase makes the admission softer, more playful, less blunt than saying, "I almost never do it." That is another reason idioms survive. They let people say something with personality. The meaning could be plain. The phrase makes it memorable. Instead of saying rarely, you place a strange moon in the sentence. That small image makes the line feel more human. The phrase also works because everyone understands the moon, even if they do not understand astronomy. You do not need to know lunar cycles to feel the meaning. You only need to know that a blue moon sounds unusual. That is enough. The exact science can come later, and the science actually adds another layer. The moon cycle does not match our calendar perfectly. That mismatch creates extra full moons from time to time. Calendars are human systems. The moon is not following our months. It follows its own rhythm. So the blue moon reminds us that nature and human timekeeping do not always line up neatly. We divide time into months. The moon moves on its own schedule. Every so often, the difference shows. That is part of what makes a blue moon feel special. It is a little reminder that the sky is not arranged for our convenience. The calendar tries to organize time. The moon slips slightly out of step, then 1 month or 1 season has an extra full moon, and people give it a name. That name then becomes a metaphor for rarity. This is how language often grows. A real observation becomes a symbol becomes a phrase becomes so common that people use it without thinking about the original image. Most people who say once in a blue moon are not checking lunar calendars. They are not thinking about atmospheric particles. They are not comparing seasonal full moons. They are simply saying that does not happen very often. And that is exactly how a phrase becomes successful. The origin can fade, but the meaning stays useful. Still, the phrase has picked up confusion over time. Some people think a blue moon means the moon literally turns blue. Sometimes it can appear that way, but that is not what the common calendar term usually means. Some people think it means the second full moon in a month. That is the popular modern definition. Others point to the seasonal definition as older in almanac tradition. Both calendar meanings exist, and neither one fully explains the older idiom by itself. That is why this phrase is a little tricky. The saying, the calendar term, and the literal blue-looking moon are related in people's minds, but they are not all the same thing. A moon that appears blue is a visual event. A calendar blue moon is a timing event. The phrase once in a blue moon is a language event. All three are connected by rarity. That is the thread holding them together. The moon can rarely look blue. An extra full moon appears only occasionally, and the phrase describes something that rarely happens. Different meanings, same feeling, rare enough to notice. That is also why the phrase has a slightly magical sound. Blue is a color people often connect with distance, mystery, coldness, night, and dreams. The moon already feels distant and symbolic. Put the two together and you get an image that feels more poetic than ordinary speech. A blue moon sounds like something from a story, something you wait for, something that appears when the world is just a little different. That feeling helped the phrase spread beyond strict meaning. It became part of songs, stories, romance, nostalgia, and everyday speech. People do not only use it because it is accurate, they use it because it sounds good. That matters. Language is not only a tool for information, it is also a tool for feeling. Very rarely gives information. Once in a blue moon gives atmosphere. That atmosphere is why the phrase is still alive. If someone says, "I see him very rarely," the meaning is clear. If someone says, "I see him once in a blue moon," the sentence carries more personality. It suggests time passing, long gaps, a little surprise when the event finally happens. That emotional texture is hard to replace. The phrase is also flexible. It can be used for good things, bad things, neutral things, or funny things. Once in a blue moon, I win something. Once in a blue moon, she admits she was wrong. Once in a blue moon, this old car starts on the first try. Once in a blue moon, we all sit down for dinner together. The phrase does not judge the event, it only tells you it is rare. That makes it easy to use. And easy phrases spread. There is also a reason people like rare events. Rare things make us pay attention. If something happens every day, we stop noticing. If something happens once in a while, it gains meaning. A full moon appears often enough that many people ignore it, but call one a blue moon, and suddenly people look up. The name changes attention. That is one of the quiet powers of language. A word can make us notice something we might have passed over. The sky is the same sky, the moon is the same moon, but the name blue moon makes the night feel like an event. That is exactly what the idiom does in speech. It makes a rare occurrence feel like something marked on the calendar of life. Not common, not routine. Something worth mentioning. There is a small lesson in that. Rarity gives shape to memory. You may not remember every normal Tuesday, but you remember the unusual day, the strange call, the unexpected apology, the one time everything worked, the moment that happens once in a blue moon. That is why the phrase has lasted. It names rarity in a way people can feel. It takes something abstract, how often something happens, and gives it a picture. A moon that is different from the usual moon. A night that stands apart. A rare event in the rhythm of time. So why do we say once in a blue moon? Because a blue moon became a symbol for something rare, unusual, or outside the normal pattern. Sometimes the moon can appear bluish because of atmospheric conditions. In calendar terms, a blue moon can refer to an extra full moon in a month or season, and in everyday language the phrase means something happens very rarely. The exact history has layers, but the meaning is clear. A blue moon is not impossible. It is uncommon. It appears only now and then, and that makes it the perfect image for the things in life that do not happen often enough to feel ordinary. A chance meeting, a rare apology, a lucky break, a quiet, perfect evening. The thing you almost never see. Until once in a blue moon, there it is. If you enjoyed discovering the story behind this everyday saying, subscribe to Everyday Sayings and Origins. Each episode uncovers the hidden history behind the words, phrases, rhymes, and traditions we use without thinking. I'm Earl. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next origin. Peace.